Thank you, 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 thank you. So this is a story of an office seating manufacturer in California that incorporated the 5 laws of stratospheric success to totally turn around its company. And the company was basically a company that was losing money year after year after year, and had just seen its worst decline in annual revenue. And the company was owned by what's called a go-taker. And the go-taker had one thing in mind, and that one thing in mind was, I want to make money. I want to make money without giving any thought of adding value to anybody else but myself. And he was constantly frustrated by the fact that he had never reached the level of success that he felt he deserved. And you know, that's often the frustration with a go-taker, because they sometimes reach a certain level of success, but they can never sustain it. And that was exactly what had happened with him. The company had done really well in the good economy, and now there was a bad economy, and the bad economy had hit him really, really hard. So he had some choices to make. He decided to go to his business consultant, a good friend of his. And the business consultant and him got together and they strategized on what would be the options. Is he going to sell the company while it's still worth something? Or you're going to reinvest in it, do something different. He reinvested because he wanted to do something different. So what was that reinvestment? The reinvestment was to hire somebody from corporate. Somebody with a corporate background that would really introduce the policies, the procedures, the structure that he felt and this business consultant felt was the missing link to why they had not sustained the level of success that he felt he was so close to. So within a month, he'd found what he felt was the ideal candidate. And within a month after that, this corporate person had left their role in the corporate world and joined the world of the go-taker. What was interesting about this is that the go-taker hadn't realized that the new vice president of sales was in fact a go-giver. Somebody that was only interested in adding more value to other people. What the actual vice president of sales didn't realize was that the owner was a go-taker. Somebody was only interested in putting his own interests first. It was like a perfect marriage. Perfect marriage. And some of you may be able to relate to that, I'm not sure. So it was really interesting. The first few months were really interesting because, you know, you imagine the sales sort of side of him was, okay, I'm vice president of sales, I'm now going in and I'm asking questions and I'm meeting up with the employees and I'm asking for them for things that are very, very customer focused. And he'd go to engineering, he'd go to operations, he'd go to customer service, and the response he was getting was like an awkwardness and a difficult interaction with the employees because they'd been so used to protecting the company and themselves. So he'd often get a situation where he'd ask for something and it would be like, just give me a few minutes. And he'd turn around and then the person would be running to the owner's office. Like, hey, is this okay if I do this? It's like, I'm still going to have my job if I say yes. The owner was so desperate and it was so early in the hiring process that he was actually just, hey, just let it flow. The culture of the company started to change. And the owner started to realize that this vice president was making a difference. Not by incorporating policies, procedures, and structure, but basically by focusing on people. And he was really happy with that for a while, until the vice president of sales turned up in his office one morning saying, I now want to give more in value than we take in payment, which is the first law. It didn't go down very well. It was like, it was really bad, really, really bad. And it didn't go down very well for the simple reason that the owner had no idea what the difference was between value and price. And so the vice president started to explain the difference between value and price. You see, the company was manufacturing office chairs and had been hit hard by the economy, but also been hit hard because a lot of the manufacturers overseas were actually bringing sort of seating into North America that looked the same and were half the amount of money. So his product had become a commodity. And when a product becomes a commodity, it's a price war that you never ever win. So as the vice president explained the difference between value and price, in that value makes the company a resource. If we shift the value from price and we shift it to value, we now become a resource and we actually attract a different audience. So the vice president created a value proposition that was really born out of the questions that had been asked to the customers and also to the internal staff. And that value proposition was incorporated around 5 key elements. The 5 elements had created this new value. And the elements were excellence, attention, consistency, appreciation, and empathy. And so he went out with this value proposition and started to change the culture of the company. And the owner continued to be happy. In fact, what happened is like, hey, this is really great. This is actually working. I'm actually making money now. I'm actually making money now. It never got to a we. It was, I'm actually making money now. How can I make more money? Just keep away. Just keep on the golf course. Let everyone do their thing. Let everyone do their thing. Because what had already started to happen is that the law of value had already triggered off some of the other laws that we're about to talk about. And the second law that started to incorporate into this company was the law of compensation. And the law of compensation says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. When they shifted to value, the reseller changed to a different type of reseller, a much bigger reseller. So suddenly, instead of having 2 or 3 salespeople in the market, they actually were drawn to resellers that had companies that had 8 or 9 salespeople in the market. So when you look at what was happening, the value was creating the ability to get the focus on the company, and then the compensation element, the law of compensation, was actually allowing more of an impact because of the people they were reaching and the amount of people that were now being reached. The third law started to come into play, which is the law of influence. Influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. You now have this situation that's occurring where the influence out in the environment that had been created by all of the energy of the value was basically bringing a different type of audience back again that was within the form of the independent rep. So suddenly the company, getting these very large independent rep firms, big organizations with really big brands, calling the company and saying, I need to take on your line because you're working with one of my resellers and they're saying that you're an up-and-coming company. I don't know what you're doing, but like they're telling me that I've got to start working with you because they're not happy with who I am working with now. So the whole thing shifted and changed around. The minute you start putting other people ahead of yourself, the minute you start focusing on value and what you can do for other people, is the minute you change the playing field in which you're standing. And if you take those 3 laws, the law of value, and then the law of compensation and the law of influence, and you add the last 2 laws to this equation, which is the law of authenticity and the law of receptivity, you end up with a success recipe that any business can move forward with and always increase their profitability and increase their revenue. Because the law of authenticity says the greatest gift you have to offer is the gift of yourself. Bless you. And the law of authenticity saying that means that how true are you to your real self? How much is this being the real core of who you want to be? And if you take that and you actually blend it with the first 3 laws, then you keep consistent with those 3 laws, you automatically get law number 5. And law number 5 is the law of receptivity. And the law of receptivity says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. When you take those laws and you apply them, just as this company did, you end up with a company that increases its profitability, increases its revenue, and will continue to move forward until you drop one of those laws. So if you haven't thought about employing those laws, then I'm here to tell you it's time for you to start thinking about it. Thank you.